Think about the smartest person you know. Maybe it's someone you went to school with. The person who always got the best grades. The one everyone thought would become incredibly successful. Now ask yourself a simple question: is that person actually rich? Probably not. And that's strange, because from childhood on, we're taught a simple equation: study hard, get good grades, find a good job, work hard, and eventually you'll be financially successful. That sounds logical, but if intelligence alone created wealth, universities would be full of millionaires. But they're not. Every year, millions of highly educated, intelligent people work incredibly hard, and yet they worry about paying their bills, saving money, or securing a comfortable retirement. At the same time, there are people of average intelligence who quietly build businesses, invest wisely, and achieve financial freedom. So what's going on? Is life just unfair? Is success just luck? Not quite. The answer is much more uncomfortable. The biggest obstacle between you and financial freedom isn't your salary. It isn't inflation. It isn't your boss. And it's probably not your education either. It's something you've carried around in your head since the day you were born. Your brain. Here's the part nobody tells you. Your brain was never designed to make you rich. It was designed to keep you alive. And those are two very different goals. Imagine you were living 50,000 years ago. There are no banks, no salaries, no investments, no retirement plans, no stock market. Your biggest concern isn't building wealth. It's about surviving until tomorrow, finding enough food, avoiding predators, staying with your tribe, making sure you live long enough to see another sunrise. In that world, your brain developed a simple priority: choose whatever increases your chances of survival today, not next year, not in 20 years today. This ancient survival system has helped humans survive for hundreds of thousands of years. The strange thing is, it's still at work in your head. Your body lives in the 21st century, but large parts of your brain still behave as if you were living in the Stone Age. Every financial decision you make goes through software that was written long before money even existed. That's why intelligent people often make decisions that seem completely irrational. Not because they're careless, not because they're lazy, but because they're following instincts that once kept their ancestors alive. Think about the last time you promised yourself you wouldn't buy anything unnecessary. Maybe it was after New Year's. Maybe after watching a finance video, maybe after checking your bank balance. You were absolutely serious. This month would be different. You'd finally save more, spend less, make better decisions. Then payday came. Suddenly, everything felt different. Those expensive headphones didn't seem so expensive anymore. Ordering food felt like a reward. Buying new clothes seemed justified because you'd worked hard. Every purchase made perfect sense in that moment. Nothing felt irresponsible. Nothing seemed reckless to you. In fact, every decision seemed logical to you. Then a few days went by. You checked your bank account again, and somehow a large portion of your paycheck was gone. What happened? Did your personality suddenly change over the weekend? Of course not. Your brain simply reverted to its default settings, and that's just the first trap. Because what you're about to discover is something psychologists have been studying for decades, a hidden mental shortcut that quietly influences almost every financial decision you make, without you even realizing it. The first trap has a name. Psychologists call it present bias. That sounds complicated, but you've experienced it hundreds of times without realizing it. Imagine it's Friday afternoon. Your paycheck just came in. You open your banking app, and for the first time in weeks, the number on the screen feels reassuring. You relax. You tell yourself that this month will be different. Maybe you'll finally start saving. Maybe you'll invest some money. Maybe you'll stop wasting money on things you don't really need. A few hours later, you're walking through a shopping mall. You pass a store and spot a pair of shoes you've been wanting for months. Normally you just walk right past them, but today feels different. You just got paid. You can afford them, so you buy them. Later that evening, you're tired after a long week. Cooking feels like work. Ordering your favorite meal takes just a few taps. You've earned it. The next morning, a YouTube ad shows you a new smartwatch. You've already been thinking about buying one. Why not now? By Sunday evening, you've spent hundreds of dollars, not on a single big purchase, but on dozens of small decisions. Every single one seemed perfectly normal to you. For each one, there was a good excuse. And that's exactly why this trap is so dangerous. Your brain doesn't make bad decisions. It makes decisions that feel right in the moment. Thousands of years ago, that was incredibly useful. Imagine you find a tree full of fruit in the wilderness. Your brain wouldn't tell you to save it for next month. It would tell you to eat as much of it as possible, because tomorrow the fruit might already be gone. Another animal might find it first. A storm might destroy the tree. Maybe you'll never get another chance like this. In an unpredictable world, immediate rewards increased your chances of survival. Evolution rewarded people who acted quickly, not people who planned 30 years into the future. The problem is, the world has changed much faster than our brains have. Food has become supermarkets. Danger has become monthly bills. Survival has become financial planning. But the software in your brain has remained almost exactly the same. It's still whispering the same message to you. Take the reward now. You'll figure out everything else later. That's why saving is so hard. You're not fighting your bank account, you're fighting hundreds of thousands of years of evolution. Researchers have discovered something fascinating. When people have the choice between a smaller reward today or a much larger reward later, most choose the reward today. Even when they know that waiting is the smarter choice, not because they can't do the math, but because emotions speak louder than logic. Your brain treats the future like a stranger. Your future self feels like someone else. Your present self enjoys the pleasure. Your future self pays the price. Think about that for a moment. Almost every financial mistake begins with a conversation between two versions of yourself. The person you are today and the person you'll be tomorrow. The problem is tomorrow never gets a say. Today always wins. But present bias isn't the main reason people get stuck in their situation. Because even if someone manages to earn more money, even if they finally get the promotion they've been dreaming of, many of them end up in exactly the same financial situation, only with more expensive problems. And that's exactly where the second trap begins. Imagine you've been working for years, late nights, extra tasks, weekends spent answering emails. Then, one morning, the moment finally arrives. Your boss calls you into the office. Congratulations. You've earned a promotion. Your salary goes up by 30%. For a moment, life feels different. On your way home, you smile. You start making plans. This is it. Now everything will change. You tell yourself that you'll finally start building up savings. Maybe you'll even start investing. Maybe this is the beginning of financial freedom. And for the first few weeks, it actually feels that way. Your bank account looks better than ever. The stress is lower. You no longer have to check your bank balance before every purchase. Life finally feels good. But then something interesting starts to happen. Not all at once, slowly, almost imperceptibly. You move into a slightly nicer apartment. After all, you've earned it. You replace your old car. Not because you need one, but because you can afford it. Now you get a new cell phone. You subscribe to more streaming services. You start eating at nicer restaurants. Your vacations get a little more expensive. None of these decisions seem extreme. In fact, every single one seems perfectly reasonable. That's what makes this trap so dangerous. No one wakes up one morning and decides to double their monthly expenses. It happens step by step through small decisions. An upgrade, a subscription, a little luxury, until one day, you check your bank account again. And even though you're earning more money than ever before, you still don't feel financially free. How is that possible? Because your lifestyle has quietly evolved at exactly the same pace as your income. Psychologists refer to this as lifestyle inflation. Economists sometimes call it the hedonic treadmill. Imagine you're running on a treadmill. No matter how fast you run, you never really make any progress. That's exactly how many people spend their entire financial lives. Every pay raise brings new expenses, every success sparks new expectations, every improvement becomes the new normal. Think back to your first paycheck. Do you still remember how much money that was back then? A $20 dinner seemed expensive. Buying a coffee every morning seemed unnecessary. You saved up for a new cell phone. Now, ask yourself something else. How many of these things seem completely normal to you today? Probably all of them. Nothing has changed about these products. The only thing that has changed is your brain. People adapt incredibly quickly. What felt like a luxury back then quickly becomes the norm. What used to excite you becomes something you take for granted. And as soon as something becomes the norm, it no longer makes you happier. It simply becomes your baseline. That's why buying a more expensive car feels exciting for a few weeks. Moving into a bigger house feels incredible for a few months. A raise feels life-changing until it doesn't anymore. Your brain is constantly readjusting its expectations. Then it starts looking for the next upgrade, the next reward, the next achievement, the next purchase. It's a cycle with no finish line. And millions of people spend their entire lives running in it without ever realizing they're still standing in the same spot. But surprisingly, lifestyle inflation isn't the real problem. Because even people who keep their spending under control, even people who avoid unnecessary purchases, still make a serious mistake. A mistake that's almost impossible to avoid because it doesn't come from your wallet, it comes from the people around you. And once you understand that, you'll never look at success the same way again. There's one last trap, and unlike the others, this one isn't in your bank account, it's in your head. Imagine you buy a brand new car, you love it. Every time you drive it, it puts a smile on your face. For weeks, you're convinced you've made the perfect decision. Then one morning, your neighbor parks a luxury car next to yours. Suddenly, your own car doesn't feel quite so special anymore. Nothing about it has changed. It drives exactly the same. It looks exactly the same. It solves the same problems. The only thing that has changed was the person standing next to you. This is one of the oldest psychological mechanisms in human history. We rarely judge our lives in isolation. We compare them to the lives of the people around us. Thousands of years ago, that made perfect sense. Higher status often meant better food, better protection, better opportunities, better chances of finding a partner. Your ancestors who paid attention to status had a better chance of survival. That's why evolution rewarded this behavior. The problem is your brain still follows these ancient rules. Only the world has changed today. Your tribe no longer consists of 30 people living in the same village. It's millions of strangers on your phone. Every day you scroll past expensive vacations. Luxury real estate, perfect relationships, perfect bodies, perfect careers. Your brain doesn't stop to ask if any of this is real. It just compares. And that comparison quietly changes your definition of enough. That's why someone who earns $50,000 can feel richer than someone who earns $200,000. Not because of the income, but because of expectations. Because happiness isn't determined solely by what you have. It's shaped by what you think everyone else has. And that's a game you'll never win. Because there will always be someone richer, someone younger, someone more successful, someone who seems happier. If comparison is your yardstick, success will keep slipping further and further out of reach. But there's something even deeper. Something that drives every decision you've made throughout this video, your identity. Think about how people talk. I'm terrible with money. I've never been disciplined. I'm just not the type to invest. These sound like harmless opinions, but they're not. You're programming your brain this way, and your brain works incredibly hard to stay in line with the identity you've assigned it. If you believe you're bad with money, you'll unconsciously make decisions that prove you right, not because you want to fail, but because your brain hates contradictions. It would rather be consistently wrong than inconsistently right. That's why it's so hard to change habits. People try to change their behavior without changing the story they tell themselves. True financial freedom doesn't start with a higher salary. It starts with a different identity. The moment you stop saying, I want to save money, and start thinking, I'm someone who secures my future, everything begins to change. Your decisions change, your habits change. Eventually your life changes. Here's the truth that most people never realize. Money is rarely just about money. It's about emotions, fear, security, status, reward, belonging. Your financial life is nothing more than a reflection of thousands of invisible psychological decisions you've made over the years. And that's actually good news, because if psychology created the problem, psychology can also solve it. The goal isn't to become smarter. It's not about working longer hours, and it's not about chasing every new financial strategy you see online. The goal is to understand the operating system running inside your own head. Because once you can recognize the invisible patterns, they lose their power. You stop reacting automatically. You start making conscious decisions. And that's the moment when real change becomes possible, not overnight, not next week, but one decision at a time. The people who achieve financial freedom aren't always the smartest. They aren't always the happiest people. Most of the time, they're simply the ones who've learned to stop fighting the world and have begun to understand themselves. When you master your own mind, everything else becomes easier, because the biggest investment you'll ever make isn't in the stock market. It isn't in real estate. It isn't even in your career. It's in understanding the person who makes every financial decision you'll ever make, yourself.